Hi, folks. It's Mark Merrill with Firm. On our profile segment today, we're talking about the reality behind the Nicolas Maduro arrest. Bring him to justice. Take him out of power in Venezuela. Now, as usual, as we get started on this particular episode, folks, the mass media continues to keep real facts and intentions of the Trump administration on anything that Mr. Trump does from ever reaching law-abiding American citizens' ears and eyes like you and me, because they're afraid of losing their power and control over our safe and secure livelihoods and society and culture. Aw, boo, hoo, hoo. Cry, cry. Notice every time that happens, Obama shows up on TV pleading his case when he should be in prison about 5 years ago. What about Hillary? Sloppy Jojo. And cackling hyena Kamala. Not to mention Jasmine Sparkle Queen Crockett. Please. Well, enough already, okay? Today on Firm, and me, your host, Mark Merrill, as always, the bold and expanded truth of the Nicolas Maduro arrest. Mr. Wonderful, right here. Ha ha! He's not smiling anymore, trust me. But what we're going to tell you about, folks, is not only his arrest and prosecution being underway, will be examined by Blaze Media's Liz Wheeler and the Liz Wheeler Show that she hosts, and a few comments from a Blaze Media head writer and research guy, a former Department of Defense intelligence analyst. So, let's get started on that breakdown of the Maduro arrest. See what else is going on, according to what they have to say.
I usually am on principle against special forces operators writing books and making movies and doing podcasting because I want us to protect how we operate. But this one would make a pretty good movie. This one would make a pretty good movie. But what's the real reason behind it? Some people are saying oil. Some people are saying narco-terrorism. That's, of course, the charges from the Department of Justice that Maduro is a narco-terrorist. Is he trafficking drugs to the United States? Was he captured because this is really not about Venezuela or Maduro at all? Is it a geopolitical move to outmaneuver Iran and Russia and China? We're going to talk about that. Also, the protests that have popped up in big cities like Washington, D.C. and New York City after the capture of Maduro, they're not organic. You've heard me say this sentence a million times, and it always applies, and it's always the same people. It's the same protesters, it's the same organizers, it's the same people funding the protests. They're not grassroots. They don't actually have a problem. Or I should say the problem that they're claiming they have is not actually their problem. They say that this raid, this military raid of Maduro, that Trump acted illegally. First of all, no, he didn't. Second of all, that's not the problem that they actually have with what President Trump did. A little note for what to expect on the show this week. We're going to talk about Venezuela some today, the real reason behind the raid. We are going to dive into the Epstein files because there are a couple things that need to be discussed from the Epstein files. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this. This popped up from the Department of Justice. What was the date of this? This was on Christmas Eve. Oh, how convenient. The Department of Justice posted on Christmas Eve and said the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, SDNY, and the FBI have informed the Department of Justice that they have uncovered 1 million more documents potentially related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Oh, you just happened on 1 million more documents. Funny how that works. The DOJ said the DOJ has received these documents from SDNY and the FBI to review them for release in compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, existing statutes, and judicial orders. We have lawyers working around the clock to review and make the legally required redactions to protect victims, and we will release the documents as soon as possible. Due to the mass volume of material, they say this process may take a couple more weeks. The department will continue to fully comply with federal law and President Trump's direction to release the file. Let me tell you, if it had not happened on Christmas Eve, we would have gone live because, there is so much to say. Let's just say when we do go live and talk about that statement from the Department of Justice, you know Attorney General Pam Bondi will be watching that episode. There's also something else that has been on my mind. 2 weeks is a long time to be off air. There's a lot of build-up here. There's also something else that's been on my mind regarding Candace Owens' investigation into Fort Huachuca. We are going to talk about that. I doubt we'll get to that today, but that will be in the next day or two. And it's something very important, something that's been, it's not just been on my mind, it's something that's been sticking in my mind, and I think it's a very important discussion, so we will get to that either tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on the news cycles, of course. But today, we have with us a guest who you guys loved the last time he was on the show. I'm a little biased because he is, after all, a colleague of mine. He's the head writer and chief researcher for the Glenn Beck program. He's also a former DoD analyst, and I told him this before we went on air, but I feel I should say it on air. He's also the most correct man of 2026 so far, and we're only, 5 days into the year. It is, of course, Jason Buttrill. Jason, good to see you.
Hey, Liz. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I feel like I should give the compliment on air since I said it to you totally sincerely right before we went on.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, we knew, I guess I knew something like this. It was leading to that. We knew the everything behind it, the reasons why everything was going on in Venezuela. We did not anticipate what actually would happen, which I don't think anyone, besides like in the inner circle of the Trump administration, that took me by surprise. I mean, I've just been amazed as I've been looking over this. It's been wild.
Do you know what's crazy? You know that meme of Marco Rubio from New Year's Eve when they're down at the Mar-a-Lago party and he's like singing along to Fireball? All I can think of, first of all, that thing is a meme in and of itself, and it has been properly memed by the meme lords online. But all I can think of is he knew when he was singing along. He knew, first of all, that would become a meme, of course, because he's pretty online competent or online literate. He knew that this was about to happen in Venezuela, and that just kills me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, really, they all must have known. I mean, this operation goes back months, and I mean, you talked about this, being like a movie, and I don't even think the movie is fully written yet because there's still so much that we don't know about. We know the climax, we know the big ending and how the movie, but I mean, there's so much. I mean, I would probably guess that this has been what they call shaping operations in the military. That's when they get all the intelligence, when they start moving pieces around the board. I mean, the shaping operations for this probably started back in August. So we are months into this. But I mean, I can't even imagine. They must have probably had CIA black ops, like parachuting in or inserting somehow into the country at that point. They were monitoring Maduro, getting eyes on him for months, just tracking his movements, getting everything down minute by minute where he is every single day. And like I said, I'm just blown away, and I don't know how far into the weeds you want to get in just to the military operation part of it, but that in itself is a podcast.
And thank you for Liz Wheeler, and also contribution there from Jason Buttrill, former Department of Defense intelligence analyst, and if you didn't catch his title from before. In addition, for all of you law-abiding American citizens, we've got a brief biography of Maduro. Not that you want to hear it. And don't feel sorry for him. Because a lot of young people, even back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm talking about, when I say back in the day, even decades ago, rise out of poverty and make the world a better place despite what they experienced. Make good decisions. If your parents were able or even willing to have you take the high road and think of others before yourself. Well, here's the real biography on him. So, Nicolas Maduro, before we get into it here, folks, a little bit, Ms. Wheeler and Mr. Buttrill, first of all, were exposing the real genius, shattering forever wars, flexing unmatched cyber power, and choking China's fuel supply at the same time. Because China was really, and probably still is, trying to crowbar their way into the Brazilian government. The Colombian government already had Maduro in their back pocket, siphoning all the oil and mineral riches that they had. That's not what Donald Trump is after, ladies and gentlemen. But the mass media, as we started our program off with, continues to keep the real facts and intentions of the Trump administration for themselves and try to make him look bad. It's been going on since he was president in 2016. Mass media is out for itself. It's finding out that, once the left and the Democratic left-wing nut radicals, as we call them here at Firm, realize that they don't need the media anymore, they crap all over them. Throw them to the dogs. In some cases, some media representatives are attacked to get them out of the way. Because the left-wing radicals, it's not just the Democrats, folks. There's some Republicans that are desperate out there. They want all the glory and power and control that they can get. While most commentators are stuck on the obvious, framing the strike by Mr. Trump as retribution for Maduro's narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, and alleged election theft, his regime's role in mass migration to the U.S., and Venezuela's alliances with Russia and China, as mentioned, or as a big oil heist, this lightning operation that took place hides layers of genius the establishment will never admit. Nope. So, here's the bio on Mr. Maduro, folks. Born November 1962 in Caracas, that same country. He initially was a bus driver, became a trade union leader, and rose to become a politician. He served as the vice president under Hugo Chavez, and later as president of Venezuela. Hugo Chavez should make a lot of people's spines and stomachs upset. Yeah, that Hugo Chavez. There's only one. He's long gone, though. Still, Maduro, in the meantime, had been president up until this time, since 2013, with a controversial re-election in 2018 and 2024. Gee, I wonder why controversial. Do you know? Oh, I'm sorry. You're sworn to secrecy right now, especially in shackles. Let's hope it stays that way. Captured by U.S. forces just a few days ago in this early part of January 2026 and indicted. Charges of narco-terrorism, cocaine trafficking, possession of destructive devices against the United States. Gee, those are kind of harsh charges to overcome, don't you think, folks? I would think so. Indicted by the U.S. in the Southern District of New York for various crimes, including the same narco-terrorism and cocaine trafficking. Maduro was reelected for a third term in January of 2025, over a year ago, despite evidence suggesting he lost the election by a wide margin. And his international recognition? Well, I wouldn't like to bring that home to mom and dad. The United States, listen to this one, folks. The United States and over 50 other countries do not recognize Maduro as the legitimate leader of Venezuela. That say enough for you? We also like to bring up some words of wisdom from a representative, a professional, actually, columnist for the New York Post, Miranda Devine. You can't really see her picture that well, but she recently wrote a piece for the publication Imprimis of Hillsdale College. Lawlessness is a choice, she says. While being interviewed on a recent podcast, a Texas Democrat, Jasmine Crockett, this should be fun, right? She decided to opine on crime, a topic on which she apparently considers herself to be an expert. But her nutty conclusion was this quote. She said, "Just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal." Thought you've heard it all? How stupid can you get? Oh, and one more thing here, folks. We do want to go ahead and promote, since we haven't talked about them in a while, our candidates for the governor's race in the state of Maine. Republicans mostly. But here they are. Pretty much in living color. Some Democrats involved or showing here in this particular picture. However, we have at the very top Angus King III, Democrat. Hannah Pingree, Democrat. Owen McCarthy on Republican side. On the next line down, on the side, the gentleman with his cap on is Bobby Charles, Jim Libby, and then next to him in the tan jacket is Rick Bennett, Democrat, and the last four we have here are David Jones, Ben Capron, and Robert Wessels, and an independent running for governor at the bottom, John Glowa. So keep yourself informed, folks, and make sure that you check them all out, especially if they are going to be speaking at a function of yours or at an event representing them as independents, Republicans, or Democrats, because it's a very important election coming up here in 2026, folks. And we certainly need all the supporters we can get to change what's going on and the corruption, not just in the entire Democratic Party, but also to clean house, possibly prosecute, indict, and imprison some of these people who think that they can just run amok and not even consider that they were doing anything wrong. They were making the state a better place to live for special rights groups. That's right. That's all they're interested in, folks. Special rights groups. The deflectocrats is why we call them that. They deflect and deny the truth constantly. As always, stay with us on Firm, right here, Fairness in Reporting Media, and our Gmail, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Our podcasts are always on Twitter and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pray for our country. Pray for our state. Pray for our recovery and our respectability and accountability for our children and our grandchildren. And you know what? At this point, you might as well say our great-grandchildren, folks. We desperately need to make this change. Stay safe in your travels, folks. Peace to all.